What's up guys, this is Cher talking, welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I bring you news for romancing SaGa ReUniverSe. They just announced the 4th anniversary appreciation dragons banner that has 5 different dragons. So that means that you have 1% chance for each dragon, no off banners, a good time to use free gens if you like dragons. But are they good enough? Well, we'll have to talk about that going to Reddit in this post by Hands43. Thank you so much for doing this amazing job as always. Well, Merlot-Syrah is a spear user and now it also uses spells. So you can upgrade the spear to get the elemental of it, but you don't even need to use the spell, to be honest. Well, we have 120% STR, that's not that high. We have 103% endurance and 110% will, just average for current game, and 120% intelligence for that spell. Agility to 101%, also very average. The status here don't shine too much because they had to spend some increasing intelligence. Now, this character starts with 14 BP and also with a passive that if you defeat a target, you will give 5 EP to everyone in the squad, a hit up to everyone in the squad that will increase damage potential by 20% for the whole fight, then also a defense up that will decrease damage taken by 15% for the whole fight. So all of this relies on killing a target. So if you are using this character for farming, well, the 5 EP will help you get more usage of your skills, but if you are in a challenge that has 2 waves, for example, like Spiral Corridor 270, you have 2 waves of enemies and you kill one enemy, you trigger this effect. It only triggers once. Or in Remembrance fights where there are multiple enemies as well. But then we have other effects that are guaranteed no matter if you kill a target or not, like this 15% hit up to the whole squad, 20% defense up to the whole squad as well. So those are permanent. And a defense boost that will decrease damage taken by 35%, if I'm not mistaken. No, it will be actually 25% because it's passive, but it lasts for 3 turns and it is for everyone. So it's a good way to start the fight, decreasing damage taken. Then turn begins, it will cast this fierce charge for everyone, and it gives separately passives where if you land an attack, you're gonna get a 10% attack boost that can stack 2 turns, a defense boost of small effect that decreases damage taken by 15%, lasts for 2 turns, and stack as well. So if you are faster than the enemy and you have a chase attack, you can trigger 4 defense boosts of small effect, decreasing damage taken each time by 15%. So that is actually very helpful, and many of the cards that allow for such mechanics are elemental specialists, like for example for Neos, like Impress, like Rouge. But now you have something that works for any elemental squad. That's very nice because this character is also very good offensively. Now on turn begins you get 2 extra VP for a total of 5 per turn. We'll also be buffing Love and Charisma by 20% to the squad, and then cast an end of turn recover. This can trigger 2 times, so you'll be healing around 800 per turn for free, with a character that is also used as a damage dealer. We have also 40% damage increase, and then reduces damage taken by 30% at all times. And also when attacking, we'll chase with Assault twice. Assault is a skill from the past style of Merlot-Syrah. On the Monster version, you have a skill that has 2 hits with C power that buffs STR. It will be 15% because of the rank 1, but it's also Piercing Lightning, and since you are using a command and chasing 2 times with double C power, it's very close to 2 chases with 4S power. The only problem is that Merlot-Syrah doesn't have that much damage potential, but if you have other cards that buff, attack boost, that buff, status buffs, will also help increase damage potential. It is not as strong as Kihachi, of course, because you can see that it's using lightning damage. The latest Kihachi is a lightning specialist, but for Pierce there is still a little more space. But remember, this character also gives you defensive effects, so sometimes you can actually place a character that gives more defenses than just full offense, so there is a place to use the character. As for commands, we have a 13 VP skill that attacks randomly 5 times with attack boost of 15% damage increase for just that turn for each attack. That it actually increases damage output of your assault chase, because that will give you 5 stacks of 15%, meaning 75% damage increase for all assaults to do more damage. And if you are in a fight where the enemy does not buff break you, so your STR buffs can stack pretty well. There is a second skill that is a column slash and lightning attack that can be used twice in a row if you kill a target for farming, and it has triple S power and can paralyze. It's not really great. And then skill number 1, that is a weak attack, just E power, but if you land a weak attack on the enemy, you get extra 4 BP. So keep using skill 3 the more you can. And as you can see, if you get 5 BP and then another 4, it's 9 extra. And you always be able to cycle the skill 3 and skill 1 even without any BP batteries. So I do believe that this Merlot-Syrah is nice. The changes made to the character make it much better to help versus boss fights that attack and do a lot of damage, even versus the Megalith Dragon. If you're having difficulty, we still have spaces for new spear units there, since there are not that many ones that can cast defenses boost. So a good pick. I would say that this character deserves at least a 4 out of 5 because it is still pretty good. There is also a skill that comes from the human version of Merlot-Syrah that decreases BP cost by 10. So you can use it to keep using skill 3 every turn if you have it. Not exactly needed though. Moving on, we have Gwayne. Gwayne got a buff to agility. SGR is 124, 132 agility, 110% endurance and wheel. Nothing really stellar, just that. And Battle Begins starts with 11 BP. And then if dies, will revive once. When landing an attack, gets attack boost of medium effect only. Well, that's just 10% damage increase. Lasts for 5 turns and can stack. But remember Shaw? Shaw gets 50% attack boost for 5 turns as well. Also a defense boost, but just for that turn. A defense down to enemies that will last for 2 turns. That will decrease defenses by 10%. But also a buff break. The good thing about the buff break is that this unit has area attacks. So it can actually buff break multiple enemies depending on the fight. By the end of a turn, gets 2 BP, so it's a 5 BP per turn character, and also increase OG Gauge by 25 points. This character wants to keep getting into overdrive, because when attacking on overdrive, okay, you're going to recover around 2000 HP by the end of a turn, and also if you are attacking on human, it says here, you get yet another HP recover. Also BP. Also when attacking, you will lose 10% HP because you're gonna chase 2 times with skill number 3. That skill number 3 is an APP skill with C power attack that attacks twice a row of enemies with slash and lightning damage. Another character designed to work on Spiral 270, but also a future remembrance where there will be enemies aligned in a row. So a lot of damage here, and 2 times C power, it's like at least triple S potential with a double chase then. Then we have here 25% damage reduction and 5 stacks of heat up. That will increase damage potential by 15%. It is a pretty normal character that it just doesn't have much. There is even a skill that applies recoil. And it's more for slash and lightning, and for single target slash and lightning. It's totally dominated by Kihachi and even by Khalid. And well, very simple design, does not help the party with anything. Once you get into OG, and there's not even too much to get from OG anyway. I really don't like this design. A 2.5 out of 5 is more than deserved. Moving on, we have Genryu, and probably the second best style here. We have 125% endurance and wheel. Those are actually very nice volleys, and 119% STR and agility. You can see that they really buffed endurance to make this character much better than it was on JP. Because it has this new Strong Guard that has a 40% damage reduction for the whole squad when everyone is alive. That's big. We'll also start the fight with 12 BP and apply 4 triggers of the first passive for 10 turns. But what is the first passive? If everyone is aligned on turn begins, it will apply this attack boost. That will increase damage potential by 20% for that turn only. A defense boost that decreases damage taken by 20% from JP information to self and 1 random ally. So you will have 2 effects. 1 attack boost, 1 defense boost. 2 Genryu and someone else. Okay, this will now trigger 5 times for 10 turns. So 5 times on Genryu, 5 times on any other random surviving ally. The problem is that it can even be Genryu again, because that's how the game works. There are 4 other characters in your party, and they can receive those buffs, but it can be extremely RNG, much like a version of Gather that we got in the past. Besides those, you're gonna have two other effects, the HP recovery and 2 BP to random allies. That can be either Genryu or anyone else's. Well, the HP recovery is not reliable, but distributing 10 BP can be nice, but you just don't know who's going to get. Okay, but that is for 10 turns. After 10 turns, it's just one stack of all of this, and it won't be that interesting. So for fights that last for 10 turns, this is nice. For those that last for longer than that, not as much. Okay, besides, on turn begins, get 2 extra BP for at least 5 BP per turn. An attack boost for all allies that will increase damage potential by 15%. Just one turn, will not stack for more than that. And then the heat up, that gives a 10% increase in damage for the whole fight, 5 times. Okay, so you have some defense and offense boosts to the party. But now comes to something very interesting. Well, Genryu has part of the effects of Joe. Let's just talk about the second skill that is useless, Life of Water Plus. People will not even use this. But skill 1 applies Bond of Inspiration for 2 turns. But it's for one target. When other people are attacked, they will self-apply an attack and defense boost. The attack boost will buff damage by 5%, lasts for 2 turns. Stacks, defense boost will decrease damage taken by 20% just for that turn. So this is what Joe already starts with, and she casts her effects for 4 other characters to have it all working. Genryu does not do that for everyone unless you are using skill 3. You can see here, Bond of Inspiration to all allies. It also casts a Guard Up of very large effect that decreases damage taken by 50%. Guard Up cannot stack, so even 3 lasts for 2 turns. It was designed like this because you can cycle skill 3 and then skill 1, although it won't be that great, because the Bond of Inspiration from skill 3 is just for 1 turn. But it's fast, so it will work well if the enemy does not have a fast skill as well. So I think that Genryu will only be very good if you can keep casting S3. Even if you're not stacking Guard Up, it's already 50% damage reduction. That's nice. If you don't have the Bond of Inspiration apply every turn, you lose part of the design of the character. Because remember, some bosses will attack you like 5, 6, even more times, and then every time they hit you, they will decrease damage taken by 20%. But Bond of Inspiration on single targets really unnecessary. So there's something nice on this character. You're gonna get that 40% damage reduction at all times if everyone is alive. Lots of triggers here and there to increase offenses and defenses, but it's better for 10 turns fights. Not a really great idea for longer fights. I believe this one deserves a 4.0 grade, and it's also okay to use, although I believe that most of what we are seeing here will be seen in other characters in the future that won't rely on that much RNG or on 10 turns strategies. The next one is Dragonlord, and they buff it a lot of status here as well, reaching 105% endurance and will. Well, that's average for today's standard, to 133% STR and agility. This Dragonlord is a damage dealer. As you can see, it starts the fight with 20 BP. And then on turn begins, we'll get this Dragon's Pursuit for 2 turns. Look, on turn begins, you get something that lasts for 2 turns. It means that you are going to have double the effects. Then when you attack on overdrive, you will increase your heat attack damage. And I think this is something along the lines of 40% damage increase when using heat attacks. We'll also be buffing STR and agility by 15%. And now there are things that will happen depending on the skill that you're going to use on overdrive. If you're using a column attack, it will then activate skill 2. That is a 13 VP cost skill when you're using it as a command. Triple S power, blunt and heat damage. So if you have it 2 triggers, then you have, starting from turn 2 onwards, you're gonna chase 2 times with this skill. Now, if you are attacking on overdrive with an AoE attack, then you're gonna use skill number 3. That is a 13 VP skill as a command that attacks 3 times with deep power. That is extremely powerful. Blunt and heat damage, and critical to plant, bugs, and bones. Okay, so that means that if you use it as a command, you're going to attack 9 times with AoE. If the challenge has multiple enemies, well, this is going to be amazing. But also when using a normal attack, activates the skill tree. That is this skill here. If you don't have enough PP, use a normal attack and you're gonna get still very good damage. By the end of a turn, you have a 50% chance to fill your overdrive gauge. That's okay because the skills that you are going to use with this character don't charge too much OG. Then we have here a very big increase to damage. That is 40% when landing weak attacks. Then you have, I guess, 50% damage increase on overdrive attacks. And then on turn ends, you're gonna get extra 5 VP for 3 times. That is so that you can use this character as a farmer with use of skill number 3 2 times in a row, attacking blunt and hit weak enemies. You also get 5% hit down to the character 3 times for 3 turns. Okay, so that decreases damage potential by 5%. Barely makes any difference. I don't know why they kept this. Then Mart's intrinsic will also give you a 30% damage increase, 40% damage reduction when resisting, and then 37% chance to evade resisted attacks. Besides those 2 attacks that we already discussed, there is also this skill that you can use 1 time that will give you 2 different effects. Flaming Practice 2. This skill gives you elemental and enhanced heat of extreme effect, increasing 30% damage and triggers 3 times for a 90% increase for the whole fight. And when landing a weak attack, you're gonna get extra 2 BP. That is for when you think about bringing Dragonlord for boss fights with multiple enemies. And then there's also this end of turn recover to OG gauge, so that you have 3 turns full OG. Well, that is pretty interesting if you are in scenarios where there are multiple enemies and they are weak to either blunt or heat. But there are very few applications for this type of strategies anyway. At least the character can work as a grinder. As a grinder, very good, but for something else I don't really like. And there's 0 support to the party. As a whole, I believe that this has very low value overall. And I believe 2.5 out of 5 is also well deserved. And now moving on to Dragon Knight. This one here is really interesting. 120% STR, 130% endurance and will are very good values. And this character uses Greatsword, that's why the agility is kinda low. Okay, so we have here 30% damage reduction at all times. Alongside Iron Wall Defense 7 that gives a 50% damage reduction at all times too. When the battle begins, gives formal stance to self. When allies are attacked, you have a 50% chance to cover them. That means that you'll protect, and damage taken will decrease as well. When you are attacked, you're gonna get an HP recover of around 300 and also 1 extra BP. So even if you cover, you're gonna get even more. Now, battle begins, you have 5 damage blocks that last for the whole fight, but they will just break. And then you also gonna apply Rest and Fight 1 to all allies. What is this skill? If no damage is taken during that turn, activates the following. And this is triggered for each character of the party. They will then grant all surviving allies a hit up of 5% for the whole fight, and a defense up of 5% for the whole fight as well. And will also recover HP by around 300. Okay, so the HP recover if not taking damage doesn't really matter much. But hit up and defense up, each character can trigger 5 times. Okay, but that is crazy, right? Because that means that you can theoretically get 25 stacks of hit up and 25 stacks of defense up. That is quite a lot, right? 5% damage mitigation for the whole fight 25 times. But you have to block damage for 1 turn. Well, Dragon Knight can help you with that because, look, skill number 3 costs 10 BP and it's fast and will give damage block 5 times to a target. So, if you feel like one character will take a lot of damage, apply the damage block and they will probably not take damage in a turn. You're also going to apply 5 damage blocks to the party, like I said. So, this lasts for the whole fight and they break, but 5 damage blocks can last even for 2 turns sometimes. Depending on boss behavior, of course, but if you don't take damage for 2 turns already, you can bring someone like Final Empress with her Imperial Shield and then block all damage for turn 3 and turn 4. That will guarantee 4 triggers for each character. That would be at least 20 triggers of the defense up mechanic. But then, okay, is it that good? How much would that actually change? I made a calculation here, and even if you trigger 25 times the defense up, the mitigation will be 73%. Remember Syrah? Syrah decreases damage taken by 50% by use of skill tree. 2 times is already 75%. So, this is nice and all in paper, but it is hard to trigger, and even if you trigger that much, it doesn't really change all that much. So, besides, what else can we get with this? You have a skill number 2 that attacks randomly 2 to 4 times with attack boost with slash and lightning. This is okay. It deals normal damage. The character does not have any chains. And a skill 1 that has HP recover and guard up. So, it has something that can work. Applying that much mitigation permanently, and you can still stack with other characters. It is interesting, but it also requires you to bring Impress or other characters like Beauty that also gives you damage block to have a chance to trigger all of the effects. And it will also make a difference in very long fights, I believe. Dragonite is strange, not mandatory, hard to use, and I believe deserves a 3 out of 5 or a 3.5. I'll think about that. Overall, this banner is skippable. Even if Merlot-Syrah seems to be very nice, because it is a character that will be used on all Remembrance fights from now on, if you have. And can work in some very hard fights as well. While Genryu does not really beat Hawke. Hawke is better, in my opinion. But there are some utilities that can be interesting if you like to play with RNG and then fight with 10 turns, while Hawke works for the whole fight. So I believe that the most interesting character for those that pull it for Hawke is Merlot-Syrah. And even though people can use Dragonite, this strategy here is hard to apply and, well, can be just ignored. This banner will receive a Silver Minus award because it has 5 styles, but it is extremely skippable, sadly. But it's also a good time to save gens if you want, because there may be good banners in the next week. Overall, those are my first impressions. I'll be making a full review. Please say here on the comment section what you think about this, and I hope to see you soon in the next video or live stream. Goodbye.